All right, what's going on, guys? We are one day from the regular season. Cannot believe it's almost here. It's a great time of the year, the best time of the year. So let's get right into my power rankings. This is the preseason power rankings video, and I'm gonna break this up into two, maybe three parts. Because I'm just gonna have to. It's gonna be so long. But I'll try to get them all out before tomorrow, just so that it's all out there before any games are played. Number one, this should not come as a shocker to anybody, but we got the Kansas City Chiefs. It's hard to have any team but the Chiefs be the top dog when you win back-to-back Super Bowls. I think you've earned that respect. I think if there was going to be a down year for the Chiefs, it was going to be last year. You know, that doesn't mean that they're going to win the Super Bowl every year. There's numerous factors that go into having a great season like that. But, you know, their offense for a good chunk of the regular season was pretty average. They really struggled. Now they find themselves for the first time really since Tyreek left, where the offense has legit vertical threats in Xavier Worthy and kinda Hollywood Brown. I think Worthy mostly, but still Hollywood Brown can, if there's one thing he does well, he can run. He can run deep. So they're going to get some explosive plays that they've been missing. Not sure why the Bills traded with the Chiefs to give them the fastest player in combine history. I think they're going to regret that one. But this could be a massive mistake for the Bills and the rest of the AFC. Losing L'Jarius Sneed in free agency, or well, yeah, it kind of was free agency, but they traded him to the Titans. It's a big loss. You know, he's one of the better corners in the league. Certainly the best, probably press corner in the league. He played a huge role in that Super Bowl game against, you know, Debo and Ayuk. Some of those underneath routes, he had some big pass breakups. But they always do a good job of replacing their secondary and developing some of those young guys. You know, McDuffie's kind of a young, up-and-coming star. They've drafted some other guys who are kind of in waiting there in the secondary. I think they're going to be completely fine. I think they're going to be back in the AFC Championship game at a minimum. Are they going to get that third Super Bowl? I don't know. You know, this would be the first team in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls in a row, so they're certainly going to be motivated for it. But we'll see if they get there. Number 2, we got the Los Angeles Rams. You know, they finished the season pretty strong, despite it kind of supposed to be a down year for them. I thought it would be. Their defense really overperformed. You know, you got Puka going into year 2, a little bit of an improved O-line. Brought in, I think it was Jonah Jackson from the Lions. They've really retooled that O-line following that Super Bowl season where they had a good O-line, and then Whitworth retired. They lost some guys, and they've built it back up well. Healthy Cooper Kupp? Question mark. You know, if he can be healthy, he's not going to be the same guy, but he's still going to have a good impact. You know, obviously you cannot replace Aaron Donald, but they've added multiple key players on defense that I think collectively the unit is going to be better than they were last year. You know, they drafted Braden Fisk in the second round. He's slated to be a starter, it looks like. Jared Verse, I think, is going to be a great pass rusher they added in the first round. You drafted Cameron Kitchens. I don't know how it's pronounced. The safety. They bring in Cam Curl, safety in free agency. Bring in Tre'Davious White. Yeah, he's older, you know, but I think he can still have an impact for them. You draft Blake Corum. It's a great 1-2 punch that they got there in their backfield. Jordan Whittington looked good in the preseason. So it looks like they're like 3, 4, 5 deep at receiver. Yeah, I could see them winning the division this year. Basically, I guess if I'm saying that they're number 2 team, I think they are going to win the division and overtake the 49ers. They have the 12th hardest schedule. Not that big of a deal. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Seahawks fan, but I got to give the Rams credit. I like what they did this offseason. Number 3, we got the Jets. The Jets? The Jets, the New York Jets? Yes, we have the New York Jets. We were all robbed last year, you know, after a full season of hype of seeing what they were going to look like with Aaron Rodgers. Really like some of the offseason things they did to address some weaknesses on the team. They improved their O-line. They bring in Tyron Smith. Even despite that, they drafted, I think it was 10th overall, Olu Fashanu. So they're 2 deep at left tackle there. Bring in John Simpson from Baltimore. You bring in Morgan Moses from Baltimore. Those are both new starters. You have Joe Tippmann, who was a second-round pick last year at center. And then I really like what they did with their receiving core. You bring in Mike Williams from the Chargers, and then you draft God, what is his name? I know I'm drawing a blank. Malachi Corley, who is a very good run after the catch, kind of Dio Samuel-esque player. So they've added some serious depth there. Braylon Allen looked really great in the preseason too to back up Breece Hall. Their defenses, we already know what their defense is. Their defense is maybe the best in the league. I think you'll be even better when you have a competent offense that puts you in good positions and you're not constantly on the field. Even the backup quarterback position, let's say Rodgers misses a few games, they bring in Tyrod Taylor. He can win you a few games with that roster. So I think they are in for a monster year. 12th hardest schedule. I think, too, Buffalo and Miami were taking a step back this year. And so I think this is their division to win. All right, number 4, the Houston Texans. Finished the season strong last year. Finished 10-7. Destroyed the Browns in the wild card round. C.J. Stroud had maybe the best year for a rookie quarterback that I've seen, just passing the eye test. Since I've been watching football, he was amazing. Lost in the divisional round to the Ravens. They have the 4th hardest schedule this year, so that's not ideal. But if a team is really good, they're really good, and I'm not going to worry about schedule too much. Tank Dell got injured after 10 games last year. He was breaking out. He's fully back healthy. They add Stephon Diggs. They add Joe Mixon. I think out of all those additions, the biggest one is adding Danielle Hunter to go opposite of Will Anderson Jr. He's a legitimate pass rusher and difference maker. They have a very talented young secondary. They bring in Kamari Lassiter from the draft. Kalen Bullock, safety. I think he was from USC. You got Derek Stingley Jr., who's been breaking out back there. Jalen Petrie, I don't know. Bring in Azeez Al-Shaair, who has experience with DeMeco Ryans from their 49er days. This looks like a dominant team here, man. And also, they retained their offensive coordinator, who was in the middle of some, head coaching interviews. So, keeping that continuity for year 2 with Stroud is huge. Number 5, we got the Detroit Lions. This was America's team last year. Everybody and their grandma was rooting for them, especially if your team was out of the playoffs. I find it hard to not root for a Dan Campbell team. That guy just bleeds passion, grit. He's a football guy. Probably should have been in the Super Bowl last season. They were 12-5. They should have had that Cowboys game. Probably should have been 13-4. But went to the NFC Championship game, and God, this was a heartbreaker because I was rooting for the Lions, but they were also playing the 49ers, who I do not like. And they were up 24-7.5, and they lost that. So that was heartbreaking. 11th hardest schedule in 2024. I think their division got a little better, both the Bears and the Packers. They added DJ Reader, which was huge. I think they needed a presence on the interior. You bring in, what's that guy's name? Marcus Davenport. He's not going to get you 10 sacks, but I think he is a nice little piece they brought in there on the D-line. But the most important thing is that they added some talent to their secondary, because corner was by far their biggest weakness on the team, I'd say. You bring in Amik Robertson as your nickel. You draft Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. Those are their first and second rounders. And they also traded, I believe, for Carlton Davis right at the start of free agency. And that is a nice... they added like four legitimate players to go with kind of a younger secondary in Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. So really love what they did there. They have one of the more talented rosters in football. Maybe they might have my favorite roster in football. We'll see if they're able to just kind of pick up where they left off. I think Dan Campbell's not going to let them fall into a slump just because they had some success last season. Number 6, we got another team out of the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers. They finished last year as one of the hottest teams in football. As a Jordan Love. Don't know how the Packers keep doing it, but no matter who's out there, quarterback ends up being a franchise guy. Took him a while, but he really rose to the occasion towards the end of last year. Barely lost to the 49ers in the divisional round. Finished 9-8 in the regular season. A lot of shakeup on their team. They had a lot of draft picks. They lost Aaron Jones, but they replaced him with Josh Jacobs, and they also drafted Marshawn Lloyd. They added Xavier McKinney to the safety spot. They drafted 2 linebackers, one in the second in Edrin Cooper, and one in the third in Tyron Hopper. Drafted Javon Bullard in the second, another safety. They bring in a new defensive coordinator from the college game, which is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how he does. Their secondary, their roster is just stacked. It really is. And they also are the youngest team in football. The youngest team in football. They were getting hot last year, and their roster is stacked. That's a combination for success, folks. Also, there's rumors that Christian Watson's hamstrings are actually functional now. Figured out his imbalance that he had going on there. So if he can stay healthy, he could be a superstar for this offense. All right, number 7, 49ers. Probably thinking they're number 7? That's way too low. And it's not just because I'm a Seahawks fan. I mean, it might partially be, but just hear me out first. 2 Super Bowl losses in 3 years, both to the Chiefs. You got aging stars in CMC, Debo, and Trent. Obviously, they were still playing great last year, but you just never know when they're going to fall off that cliff. They still do have the superstars, but I think they've lost some depth on that team, especially on the D-line. I think they lost some depth. Feels like there may be an energy kind of hangover where they have to feel like, what else can we possibly do to win a Super Bowl? You know, it's got to be emotionally draining. I saw that firsthand with the Seahawks and how they lost to the Patriots. Now that's a different way of losing a Super Bowl, but still. I think the Seahawks and Rams are going to be better this year, and they will each take a game off the 49ers. They did get Ayuk extended. They did extend Trent Williams, so they figured that out. That was huge. Lost Eric Armstead. That's okay. Hufanga will be back or he is back, and then Dre Greenlaw will be back at some point. But until then, they brought in Devondre Campbell, so still it's a good roster, no doubt. I just think there's going to be a little bit of a hangover. Number 8, the Cincinnati Bengals. I just want to point out really quick, while their counterparts in their division, the Browns, Ravens, and Steelers, all have the toughest 3 schedules in the NFL. They are tied for 16, so they are middle of the pack. So they kind of benefited from finishing last in their division, or they get those last place matchups against other teams. So finished 9-8 last year. Burrow was out the last 7 games. They were kind of catching fire when he did go out. You lose DJ Reader, which is a big loss on that D line. I do think they've done a really good job of improving their O line the last few years. They've kind of had to because Burrow was getting banged up and he's under a lot of heat. Bringing in Amarius Mims, he might not even start right away, but they've really improved that O line, and they have probably, not even probably, they certainly have one of the best receiving corps in football. Ja'Marr Chase, it sounds like as of yesterday he did practice, so I think he will be playing this week. Burrow, this is like his first healthy training camp in maybe his career. If it's not his career, it's in the last few years. And then you did lose Joe Mixon, but I don't think that was that big of a deal because he was not a very efficient running back anyways. And they'll be fine with Zach Moss and Chase Brown. All right, number 9, the Philadelphia Eagles. Roster-wise, they should probably be higher, but after their Super Bowl season, or where they went to the Super Bowl, they were looking to get back, and from the jump, things didn't seem quite the same. They did start last year off really well record-wise, but it just wasn't. They weren't winning games in the same fashion. They just didn't look quite as good. They lost 6 of their last 7 games, including that wild card loss to the Bucs where they got destroyed. Just didn't look right. Both coordinators ended up getting fired. Not Sirianni. He kind of lucked out there. He threw those guys under the bus. I think he should have been let go, but they did bring in a couple of good coordinators, Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. They improved their roster, even though Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce retired, you add Saquon Barkley, they add Bryce Huff, and you added some new young pieces in the secondary, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, you brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson, so they've made those improvements. Also lost Hassan Reddick, that's okay too. But yeah, I think they're going to win their division. The division's still pretty weak. I just don't think they're going to be quite as dominant as they were 2 years ago. Number 10, the Baltimore Ravens. They bring in Derrick Henry probably a couple years too late. Not that he won't have an impact. They lost 3 starting O-linemen. They did do a good job replacing them. But there's some continuity, chemistry issues maybe there. They lost some depth on defense. Not any of their star players really, other than if you want to throw in Patrick Queen, I guess. I think the biggest loss is they lost Mike McDonald, and he was a very sought-after D coordinator. Luckily, my Seahawks got him, baby. Mark Andrews is back healthy. You got Zay Flowers going into year 2. They finished 13-4. They lost in the AFC Championship to the Chiefs, and they play the Chiefs again tonight, opening night, NFL kickoff. Let's go, baby. All right, there's the Power Rankings final recap. Thank you guys for watching. And this is not like a season prediction video. That's going to be coming out soon where I'll predict divisions, records, and who wins the Super Bowl.